Hey students, let's do a little bit of review for chapters 13 here and 14. This is a whole new section on the third part of the course, which is on the age of the known universe. Cultures all over the world have stories about how the universe came into existence, how things came to be the way they are, where things came from. Right? Go to any culture anywhere, they'll have a story to explain, how the world got to be the way it is. For most of human history, this sort of stuff is material that's outside the realm of science. There's not a way to scientifically investigate the age of the universe. If we go back to Aristotle, our man Aristotle, Aristotle believed there was no origin to the universe. Okay, that to Aristotle the universe had simply always existed. Time had always existed. There's no beginning to anything because it had always existed. Everything cycles eternally. There's some weird ideas that come out of eternal cycles. Nothing is new. Aristotle believed that any idea that people have had been had before infinitely many times before. So that somewhere in the past, whatever our inventions are, those things had existed once in the past before and had been lost. And that our inventions would be lost again only to, in some sort of downfall of civilization, and would be reinvented in the future and then lost again and then reinvented and so on and so forth. And that even people sort of recur. Not like Aristotle wouldn't say that you yourself existed in the past, but somebody like you existed in the past. Okay, and somebody like you will exist in the future. So that everything occurs cyclically, over and over and over again, and has since forever, going back into the past. There's no beginning, and going forward into the future, there's no end. Okay, just keeps cycling over and over again. So that's one. Aristotle's ideas will learn or have some significant influence on our modern way of thinking. Another thing that has a significant influence on our modern way of thinking, completely different, is the Judeo-Christian story of the creation of the universe. In the Judeo-Christian view, this comes from the book of Genesis in the Hebrew scriptures. The universe has an origin, has a birthday. In the Jewish calendar, it's a little more than 5,700 years ago the universe is created. Augustine of Hippo argued that even time it was created at the beginning of the universe by God. Okay, so Augustine said you can't ask, well, what was God doing before God created the universe? Because there wasn't a before. Okay, that time itself was created at the formation of the universe by God. So there is no such thing as before the creation, because time itself is a created quantity. In 1277, when the Bishop of Paris, investigated the controversies over Aristotle and condemned various Aristotelian ideas as errors, a number of the things that were condemned were Aristotle's ideas about this kind of stuff. Tempier condemned the idea of a cyclic universe. Okay, Tempier condemned the idea that anything could be eternal other than God. Tempier condemned the idea that anything could possibly exist before God created the universe. All of these things are stuff that Tempier said were these Aristotelian ideas that he said were errors. Okay, and you couldn't teach this stuff. However, if you say that if you go with the Judeo-Christian view, you have a beginning to the universe, and then the question is, well, how long ago was that the universe was made by God? And the value that gets thrown up from typically in the Judeo-Christian world is a roughly 5,000 something to maybe almost 7,000 years, depending on who's doing the calculation. Two sort of significant people are Rabbi Hillel II, who lived in the 4th century, who calculated that the universe was created by God somewhere about a little bit more than 5,700 years ago. Well, in about 3,700 BC, a little bit more than that, a little bit further back than that. The other is Bishop James Ussher of Ireland, who in the 17th century did a similar sort of calculation and came up that the universe was created about 6,000 years ago, about 4,000, actually he came up with 4004 BC, and October the 23rd of 4004 BC. Both of these guys largely got these dates by looking through Scripture and looking at times that are mentioned in the Scripture and then sort of adding things up to estimate the age of creation. There's more detail involved in it than just that. I know Ussher at least used some astronomical calculations and so on and so forth. But both of them arrive at this rough age of 6,000 years. Ussher's dating system is very culturally influential in the United States because his calculations, his dates that he calculated for events in the Bible, he didn't just calculate the date of creation, he calculated dates for all sorts of stuff. A lot of editions of the King James Version of the Bible came out with these dates put in the margins. Okay, so people saw these dates in their Bibles, and so this worked its way from being kind of a thing that somebody with sort of a scientific religious interest calculated to something that was in the Bibles of oodles and oodles of people. And so therefore the idea of a 6,000-year-old universe has been very widespread in the United States, in large part due to the fact that Ussher's dates were printed in different Bibles. So, if you were at the time of, say, Galileo or Riccioli, or well, more like Newton or Hooke, you could sort of choose from two possible views of the universe. One is the Aristotelian view. The Aristotelian view is that the universe is infinitely old, never had a beginning, and will continue forever. And the other is that of Ussher or Hillel, but we're going to stick with Ussher because of his cultural influence in the United States. Ussher, who said, oh, the universe is created by God and is created 6,000 years ago. Neither of these are something that you really can investigate scientifically. If you were Robert Hooke, for example, they're not something where Aristotle can say, oh, look, here's the scientific evidence for the universe being eternally old, and Ussher can say, here's the scientific evidence for the universe being 6,000 years old. These are both religious, philosophical type ideas, not something that's a matter of scientific investigation.